Greetings and welcome back to another episode of the Daily Run, and today we're playing as the Battery Man, or Isaac with a lot of batteries in other words, and this is yet another special daily where we're playing as Isaac with a lot of battery items. And battery items in this game are usually relevant to your active item. In this case it's no different. A lot of the items that we have kind of reduce our maximum charges but also increase the chances of fighting battery charges in the wild. And with the D6 you can imagine that this is a pretty wild combination, definitely something that you should be on the lookout for. I think this is one of those dailies that really does give you the taste of how imbalanced this game could be if it was balanced in a different way. And surprisingly, because the combination of items that we have essentially make our D6 a 4-room or maybe even a 3-room charge, you can be pedantic about it. It brings its power back to what it was in the Flash Isaac. So if not aware, in the Flash Isaac, the D6 was a 3-room charge, and a lot of people liked it that way. And I remember when the Rebirth came out, a lot of people were upset with the changes, and that's understandable because the D6 is one of these core items in the game, at least it was at that time, and still is to some degree, that people didn't really see or like it be changed. And when that happened, of course, there was an uproar, but I think looking back at it, it's kind of understandable that the D6 at the 3-room charge is just a bit too powerful and maybe a bit unfair. With a 6-room charge, it does feel much more fair and just much more balanced, and even still, it's one of the best active items you can find in the game, but also one of the most interactive. So I do respect, and I think the decision to make a 6-room charge is a very good decision. And I hope that this daily will kind of put that in perspective. Not only are you super overwhelmed with how you use your battery charges as you go through the room and how you use your charges on active items, it also becomes very overwhelming on how to use it optimally. So at which point should you actually backtrack? As soon as you clear 2 rooms, maybe you should clear an additional room. But obviously, because you kind of want to maximize your chances as well, you never really want to not backtrack, because it's always a good idea to reroll if you have extra charges remaining. But when you do that and go backtrack, it takes a lot up of your time, and it's maybe not the most engaging and fun experience. So for that reason, I think it's a good idea that it's a 6-room charge just because of that. And I think also that this daily does kind of showcase the balance that it goes in just making active items, and how having something, a 3-room charge and a 6-room charge can provide a vastly different experience to what people maybe are expecting from an item and what they're getting out of it when they actually use it. So that was maybe a bit of a confusing sentence, but then again, which sentence did I say isn't confusing? So I think you're used to it at this point. But the D6, or maybe this in daily in particular, it was very overwhelming for me. You know, obviously I'm the kind of player that really does like to optimize with how I reroll certain things, and just because there were so many battery charges and because my D6 is essentially a 3-room charge, it was very hard to kind of gauge which items or maybe which pulls I should reroll, at which points I should backtrack, and maybe at which points I shouldn't, just because I didn't want to lose too much of the time, obviously, but at the same time I still want to kind of have a good chances of having a really strong run so I can kind of carry myself forward. It was a weird experience, because I think rerolling the treasure pool is something that you generally don't want to do, because I think the treasure room pool just has too many items in it, so you can't really reliably reroll into good items, or at least game-changing items like you can in other item pools. So maybe the best idea to go for is just go into the devil deal and save your charges for there, but sadly this run didn't have many of those. I think I only got 1 devil deal at the start on the 2nd floor, and then there were no devil deals for the 2 floors. So this is actually the 1st floor that we will get another devil deal, and it does provide to be quite substantial, maybe game-changing, and that's maybe also the reason why I was rushing a little bit to get to the boss and saving up charges, obviously, because I did want a devil deal which will be substantial, actually change how my run works. And if this devil deal didn't change maybe the outcome of the run, I think you'll see what I mean as I reroll into the next item that we get here. And at this point, you know, because I was overwhelmed, I was debating whether I should pick up certain items or not. And I picked up Chaos because I think, why wouldn't we pick up Chaos? Chaos is an item that I feel fits perfectly in this run. I just said, you know, let's go a little bit crazy, let's go a little bit ham, and try to get this run just as wild as possible. And as I reroll the items in the devil deal, because I have Chaos, Missing No shows up, and you know, this is pretty crazy enough. So I pick up Missing No, go to the next floor and decide, you know, we'll see where we go from here. Obviously Chaos does reroll as you pick up Missing, or at least there's a chance when you enter the next floor that Chaos will reroll, so maybe we wasted the Chaos charge, but at the same time we have Missing No. I think Missing No is an item that's much more fun and much more random than something like Chaos is. And I think I've expressed my disdain for Chaos in previous videos, so I don't really want to do that again. But all in all, I don't really enjoy Chaos because I think it makes things a bit more predictable than they should be, just because of how it works. And I think having an item like Missing No, which is something you really don't usually see often on a run like this, does prove that Isaac can be much more fun, even if things are just super random. And if this was one of those super random runs, then I don't know which run was it. Surprisingly, even though we had so many chances of getting good items and rerolling bad items into good items, we just didn't get that many up until the 5th floor, even though I used all my battery charges, or at least I tried to maximize my usage of them. And all I got up until that point was, I think, growth hormones, and that's just a damage and a speed up, and no other tier upgrades. So you can imagine that's quite disheartening, at least in the sense that you feel like you're supposed to have a much stronger run, but obviously when you get no devil deals, or maybe where you get no substantial treasure room items just right out of the bat, things are looking bad. I think I could have improved my chances by rerolling the boss item pool, but then again, you know, I'm rarely in that situation where you can make that decision, usually because the boss item pool contains a passive stat upgrade. You usually pick that up and then use your reroll on an active item, which usually comes up in a treasure room, and I think that's usually the best way to go about things. But like I said, just because of how many charges there are and just how many times you can reroll, this did prove to be quite overwhelming, and it was just hard to gauge. And I really feel, or at least I hope that you play this daily, because I think that you'll know exactly what I mean when I describe this if you didn't play it for yourself. I do put the site in the description, but sadly, because this is one of the curated dailies, I don't think you can replay it again. But then again, you can go in this exact seat, open up debug mode, and just give yourself the items that we start out with, and maybe try it for yourself. And you'll see what I mean when I say that it's very easy to get kind of overwhelmed if you're trying to maximize or min-max the game at that point. And just as you think that maybe this run can't get any crazier, we pick up the D100, and I decided, you know, at this point I'm kind of invested, I'm so invested into it, it would be a shame if I didn't pick it up. And my plan was maybe go on a room or on the next floor and see what Missing No gave us, and if it's a good run, I'll try to stick with it and maybe beat the boss, and then I'll use some of my rerolls to try to get some maybe items which will give me bombs or some consumables, or maybe just reroll me into something fun that I can show off in the video. Sadly, even though we had 5 battery charges in that one particular room, it didn't really turn out that way. I didn't really get any super fun runs going out. I think the most fun run was definitely this one that is showing right now, the one with the bones, and it wasn't even the fun in the sense that that it was doing maybe a lot of damage or it had a fun synergy. It's just that the bones are naturally fun, and when you see just a bunch of those particle effects on the ground, it's just a fun experience and a fun thing to kind of go by yourself, but nothing I would call exactly spectacular. I've definitely had much more crazier random runs, so to say. Even so, even though we had this crazy run, we finished in a pretty comfortable spot. I think the majority of that is just that I actually had a good run. I feel that a lot of people didn't find maybe the items that I did, and most of them probably had a better run. Like I said before, unless you're looking things up, I think that if you roll like I did, you're not really going to have a stellar run on this one, and you're really not probably going to get that far very fast. And unless maybe you're saving your D6 charges just for what I was saving, you're really not going to get a chaos. And I'm just trying to say that there was a lot of things that kind of had to fall into place for me to get Missing No, and then to get the D100 as well, and then to kind of roll out of control from there. Our damage penalty wasn't that high, which is encouraging. Our time penalty also was relatively low for me. Of course, it's relatively high for others, and I think at one point I had the shovel. I decided not to pick it up because I think at runs like this you really should go for that wow factor, try to kind of stick with the theme of the run instead of trying to break it. I usually, you know, I'm not saying that maybe you shouldn't pick up the shovel. I think if I did pick up the shovel, I would probably rank like in 50 scores higher, but I'm still satisfied with my top 100 for a daily like this, especially for how random it was. I still feel like that's a good result. Without boring you too much, I hope you enjoyed this one, guys, and I hope to see you next time.